So, continuing to talk about the complexity of leaders and leadership in organizations, we're going to look at a theory that mainly focuses on the reports or followers of leaders. And this is leader membership exchange theory, or LMX model. And it's the challenge of leading work teams, and it's an attributional approach. So basically, when I say attributional approach, it's how the followers attribute various successes or lack of success to a leader to determine how successful the leader is being. So a lot of the theories we've talked about so far have been kind of leader-focused top-down theories. Find the right leader, find the right behaviors, and you'll have a successful leader. This is more of a bottom-up theory that regardless of what the leader is actually doing, what's most important is how the actual people that are being led perceive that leader, and that's where we should go if we're trying to basically measure and predict leadership. So leader membership exchange theory, or LMX, is a theory that suggests that leaders form different relationships with various subordinates, and that the nature can exert strong influences and effects on the subordinates' performance and satisfaction. In other words, it's kind of building off the idea of self-fulfilling prophecy. Treat people well and they will do well. Treat people poorly and they'll do poorly. And generally what we're looking at is to examine the differences between the people that are most favored and least favored by the leader. In other words, who is your favorite people that you lead and who is your least favorite people that you lead? And this creates a bit of a theory based on kind of a social process of in-grouping and out-grouping. Those that are favored are going to be seen as the in-group. They're going to be treated better, given more opportunities, and given more support. And the result is that they're going to be raised up. Their morale, their commitment, and their job performance is all going to see increases. But what we have to watch out for as well is how that leader treats the out-groups, the less favored individuals. We're generally going to find they're going to have lower morale, lower commitment, and lower job satisfaction and performance. So again, when we're looking at this theory, we're not using it just to measure the possibility of how the person leads well. We're simultaneously measuring how do they lead poorly. And obviously the goal is to have a leader that is mainly focused on those positive in-group interactions, creating a strong team, and making sure that they're not creating in that same process an out-group. So leaders are not always consistent in their styles and characteristics across subordinates. Their behaviors may vary, and this we generally find, but we're wanting to make sure that the positive behaviors are being augmented and rewarded, and those less positive relationships are not necessarily be rewarded. Leaders do tend to place people into an in-group and out-group early upon meeting someone. Usually they do this with very little information. In other words, who do I like that I lead and who do I dislike? Who are my performers and who are my problems? And how they treat both of these groups are going to result in different outcomes. So this really theory is about identifying who these in-groups and out-groups are, and also identifying how these groups perceive the leader. So it helps the leader recognize this occurrence, can help them change their behaviors in order to include all employees. So someone that is following LMX theory and has been coached in LMX theory and is using LMX theory in their leadership style will tend to be forming larger in-groups where they're supporting everyone. A lot of times when we're using LMX style to identify problems in an organization, we often find that situation where there is both a clear in-group that's being promoted and a clear out-group that's basically being demotivated and treated poorly, relatively speaking. And that's something that requires an intervention. We want to fix that if we can. So a lot of times when we talk about LMX and these more kind of broadly speaking skill-based theories, and LMX is a skill-based theory, it does not necessarily predict who's going to be a leader. It does not necessarily predict what particular skills are going to be necessary. It really measures leadership on how we socially interact at the relationship level with our subordinates. And this is also very strongly related to self-managed work teams. So instead of directing people, work at building trust and inspiring teamwork. In other words, a lot of organizations have been trying to empower their teams, which means that as we empower teams, leaders are going to have to focus less on those initiating structures or task focuses. The teams themselves are creating the tasks and the functions to get to the goals. They're going to be focused more on building that trust and inspiring that teamwork and the relationships. So rather than focusing simply on training individuals, concentrate on expanding the overall team's capacities. Instead of managing one-on-one, attempt to create a team identity and manage the team level. Instead of working to prevent conflicts between individuals, make the most of team differences and turn those conflicts into collaboration. Rather than simply responding to change reactively, try to foresee and influence the change that's necessary to keep the team working well. So this is really kind of a shift in our expectations of leadership, and that when we have a strongly empowered workforce, we're probably looking at a slightly different set of skills that are necessary to be a successful leader. So do you think that a great leader can be great in all situations, and can a poor leader be great if put in the right environments? And I've already been kind of alluding to this, that there is no theory of perfect leadership. It's more of what type of leader are you, and are you a good fit for the role? And there's definitely certain situations that are more commonly found, which means that certain leadership types are usually more successful. But there's also this matching of the person to the environment and looking for that fit. And the last theories we're going to look at are mainly focused at things that people can do, behaviors they can learn, that will result in them being a better fit for the environment that they're in as a leader. So these are basically contingency theories. Any of several theories that recognize that certain styles of leadership are more effective in some situations than others. We're going to look at two specifically: situation leadership theory and path goal theory. Both of these are about identifying leaders' tendencies or traits or behaviors, and then matching that to the situation that they're actually finding themselves in, and the situation that's necessary to be successful at leadership. So situational leadership theory basically suggests that, again, you'll notice that 2x2 model, that high versus low on relationship behaviors, what we refer to, and also task behaviors. And task behaviors, again, is that initiating structure, and that relationships can also be thought of as kind of our social aspects. And basically what it suggests is it creates this four broad types of leaderships. The people that are low in both tend to be delegating. In other words, they're okay letting their power be taken by other people in the organization. This can be both a negative if that situation needs them to be better leaders, but it can also be a positive if there's a lot of empowerment. We then move up to high on relationship behaviors, but not necessarily tasks. This is a participating leader. So they're mainly going to be about building those team relationships, trying to come up with ways to be a better leader and to maybe forecast problems that are coming forth or haven't actually developed yet. Then we're going to see the selling type of leadership. That's that high task and high relationship. Not only are they focused on tasks, but the focus is on selling everyone on why they should be focused on tasks as well. And finally, we have the telling style. Very little on relationship, mainly on task. I'm telling you what to do. So situational leadership theory suggests that if we look at this 2x2 model, we also start to come up with four styles of leadership, and we want to match that leadership style to the situation. So situational leadership theory is a theory suggesting that the most effective style of leadership depends on the extent to which followers require guidance, direction, and emotional support. If you have followers that do not need guidance and direction and also do not need emotional support, they're going to respond better probably to a delegating leader. If you have followers that are mainly needing guidance, direction, but not emotional support, they may respond better to a telling style. And if you have followers that don't require guidance but need emotional support, that might be that participating. Now, it should still be noted that the selling style is probably going to be more successful in all of these situations because also they have the ability to do both, and therefore they might have the flexibility to know when to use both. Someone that is delegating, low on task and low on relative relationships, is going to be hard pressed to move into a situation that requires any of those skills. So just recognize that this is matching kind of a tendencies model with an actual situational model. So again, the task and the relationship determines the environment and also the leader that would be best suited for that environment. Our final leadership theory is path goal theory, a theory of leadership suggesting that subordinates will be motivated by a leader only to the extent they perceive the individual as helping them attain their valued goals through clarified pathways to reach those goals. And there's basically four basic and flexible leadership styles: instrumental, supportive, participative, and achievement oriented. And notice, again, we're seeing those breakdowns. Participative and supportive is more about relations and consultation and empowering others. Instrumental and achievement is more about performance and production. And what we're really looking here is path goal theory suggests the way we identify if a leader is being successful is if their efforts are matching to the subordinate's desires. In other words, if the subordinate is needing help in production, are they providing that? If so, they'll be successful. Are the followers, again, mainly needing relationship supportiveness in their leader? If so, if that's being provided, it's being perceived as being successful. So it's another way to kind of look at this contingency, but instead of actually trying to match the environment with the leadership style, we're now asking, does the leader provide the support necessary to get their subordinates to the goals that they value? So again, it really becomes just simply a progress towards their goals. Characteristics of the subordinates include their ability and personality. The leadership's behavior includes that instrumental, supportive, participative, or achievement-oriented style. The effects of the environment are basically the environment itself, whether the task and formal authority structures are there. And again, we look at all of these to determine whether we're going to see high performance or high satisfaction. So if we have a mismatch, for example, the characteristics of subordinates, their personality is they're wanting supportive leadership. The aspects of the work environment does not give a lot of task structure or formal authority, and a leader comes in with a very instrumental style, we'd expect to not see high performance. However, if the characteristics of the subordinates is very much focused on achievement, the aspects of the work environment are highly structured with high formal authority, and that leader's behavior is very achievement oriented, we'd expect to see high performance and high satisfaction. So each one of these we've kind of gone over at a very high level, and all of them have a lot more to them as far as their theories are concerned and how you implement them in an organization than what we've covered in this way. We've really best kind of scratched the surface, but what I hope that you're thinking about is that the various leadership theories apply to different situations and address different questions and answers. They also help us diagnose problems differently. Is the problem a mismatch between the goal of the subordinates and the goal of the leader? Is the mismatch a situation in the leadership style? Are we needing transformational leadership in this situation, and how do we identify someone with transformational leadership? Anyway, hopefully you've got a better understanding of leadership. I also encourage you strongly to read the chapter as well, as it's going to go into more detail on some of these theories. And if you have questions, I encourage you to put them on the discussion board on Canvas. And I'll talk to you next week.